Right. Okay, so welcome everyone to Live at Lunch. Welcome to those people that are here joining me right now live and those who are watching the recording. Now, I actually think that coming into this sort of session today is really much better to be hands-on and being live, but it'll still give you some tips for those people who are watching the recording. So welcome to those people just joining us. Fantastic. Right, okay, so I did send out prior to this session via the automated email for those people who have subscribed to get the info, a resource. So we'll talk about that as we get to it, but don't worry if you haven't got it already. It's all cool. It's 2 useful resources that I've sent out to you. Okay, and we'll cover some of that through our session this afternoon. Once you've hit midday, you're in the afternoon, aren't we? Okay, so I'm trying to change the slides. I'm on 2 different computers, so let's see how this goes. Tricky business. Okay, so welcome. So the focus of today is getting the most out of an online virtual session, more so as a participant. But if you ever want to host a virtual meeting room, these tips will be really helpful as well. So we're going to cover 4 main key areas, and I've really wrapped them up all together into some topics. So we're about engaging effectively as a participant, getting the most from an online session, no matter who hosts it, because let's face it, there's all sorts of different ways that people present online and do webinars. Some are just static, where you can't really participate and you're just watching. You might be able to join in the text chat. For some, you might actually have ways to connect with other people. So we've got a whole host of things. I'm really hoping that you will engage today because I'm going to be doing some hands-on action. So I just want to make sure I can see everyone who's live today already knows how to type in the text chat. So that's fantastic. I'm going to be asking you to do some of that today. And don't worry, I'm not going to put you under too much pressure at all. So we're just going to have a bit of fun. We're going to talk about some etiquette tips that can be helpful. And we're going to start off and finish off with some fun deskercise and even having some voting. So really getting a real mix of what's going on. So who's ready for some hands-on action? Do you want to type in the text chat? Great, and I can see Jess has already said that she's checked out the resources. And you are welcome, if you like, to put your mic on if you want to ask any questions or make some comments. Okay, ready to rock and roll. Great. Okay, so we're going to start off with a deskercise, which is really handy. We spend so much time in front of computers. We can, we can have an effect on our body. So it's really good to do some. So what I've shared is a whole list of resources, and we're going to try one now and then one at the end. So for this exercise, I want you to put your hands in front of you with your palms of your hands facing one another. Straighten your fingers and thumbs and slowly make a fist with each hand. Just like that. So we're going to repeat. We may not do 9 times, but that's what's suggested. So the muscles and joints in other parts of our bodies can become tense and stiff. So can the joints and small muscles in our hands, especially for those who spend a good part of our time typing, texting. So we need to do that. So really stretch out and make you feel good. Now I've got this source from what's called the Daily Challenge, and there's a whole lot of exercises I tried to grab them, and they're really good. So this fact is way out of date. 18.5 billion text messages are sent each month. It's probably phenomenally bigger than that now. Okay, so there we go. We can wriggle our fingers. So let's look at our tips for engaging effectively. A really good idea is to log in 10 to 15 minutes earlier if you can. It gives you a lot of opportunity to set up and make sure that your computer's online. So I've got a second computer online, and I'm actually broadcasting my web the PowerPoint through that. But as soon as I logged on, and I logged into it later, there was an update. So it spent 7 minutes or so updating. So it's really handy. If you log in that much early, you can always go and grab a cuppa or do something else. But if you can log in early, that'll make it less stressful for you, and that you can be on time, ready to go. So I suppose this is an etiquette tip as well. So it's handy for you and also handy for the presenter and what's going on. But look, sometimes things can't be helped. Sometimes the internet's so slow. So it's really handy, you know, getting that little bit of time beforehand if you can manage it. Look out for pre-session preparation. Now, this is particularly useful if you're in a course, because there might be something that you need to read beforehand, or there could be something that needs to be done beforehand, and that depends on your presenter. It may not always be that, but it can be a resource. I've been involved in some webinars on a boot camp on the weekend, over the Easter weekend it was, in fact, and they always had preparation beforehand that you could send an email in to the presenter and the presenter would use it. They also used it as a competition as well. So there's all sorts of ways. So if you can have a look, and it always depends. So I've actually sent you out a resource, and it's actually going to help you, and I'm going to talk about this resource because it's an editable one. So let's get on to the clear potential distractions. So what are some potential distractions for you if you're in a webinar? If you want to type in the text chat and share what are some potential distractions that you face? And while you're sharing those, typing in the text chat, I've got a situation where I'm in an office. It's not on the main street of town, but it's certainly in a public environment. And there will be times when people want to utilise and to connect with me. So what I have is a sign out the front on my door. I've got a little panel on the front door, and it actually has so that's what I've sent out, is a shared one. Yeah, Pauline sharing things happening at home. So it could be a visitor. You might share it could be what your brain's thinking of. So it could be clearing your desk so that you've got less distractions that way. Does anyone have young children? Or I was listening to another webinar during the week, and the presenter actually had the cat land on a lap. So that's certainly a distraction. So it might be, if you've got an animal that's like that, and depends on where you're engaging. So you might be quite happy to have a cuddle with your cat while you're listening, but when you're presenting, it might be another thing. Yeah, some people are not always getting their personal space. So you can put up a sign, and the sign I've sent out, and I haven't got a screenshot of it here, but the sign I've got is saying what you're doing, how much time, what time you'll likely finish. So this one I've shared says it will likely finish at 1 o'clock. And that's what I put up on the door, because my live at lunch goes from 12 to 12:30. And sometimes we might have some follow-up discussion at the end. So I've put 1 o'clock so that anyone who's coming to my door, I've got my phone number on there, and they can leave a message or they can come back later. And they have an idea that now if you're in an open office space, which can be another really big distraction. So it can be giving them a possibility of a time of when you're free, can at least let them think, okay, I can wait that 20 minutes or that half an hour to come back and get what I need. So sometimes if you're in an open office, you're in a busy space and people have got big demands that they need. Okay, so I'm just looking at the chat. Okay, so office locations can be, Jess is saying that in all sorts of places. And her cat, Mr. Darcy, can be a terror at times. So, look, a lovable terror by the sounds of it. So not having a settled space can be a challenge. Sometimes you're joining in a live webinar, say, from a free Wi-Fi space, and that could be in a library or at a McDonald's restaurant or something like that. That's handy, but you can have those distractions. So it depends, I suppose, on how important it is. But if you can clear away those distractions, it's just going to make it that much easier for you to engage. Now, a great example I've seen is, or heard of, was someone who was in an open office and they were constantly getting distractions. So what they did was they got police tape and they put it around their open desk. So there was sort of like this physical barrier, and they had their headphones on just to give this, so no one would come in and talk to them. So I don't know, is there any ideas of solutions that you could come up with? It can be something I've already mentioned, but what's something you use, or what are some strategies? It'd be really good to share them, because, I'm not always the font of all knowledge. So it's really good to share and collaborate on these. So I've mentioned and shared putting up a sign, and that can be, on your front door, or it could be on your household door. If you've got, and looking after toddlers, well, you can't, they're the priority number one, aren't they? And if you can get into a live webinar, well, brilliant. So, it's okay to have some level of it. What's something else you could do to stop things bouncing and distracting you? I've mentioned clearing your desk. I did something right before I came, or actually when I was online and before I started recording, was to turn off my email, not my internet. Yeah, Jess has got, tell your partner, I have an online meeting today. Please remember to keep it a bit quiet when you come in. Yeah, in for lunch from work. Great. You're warning them ahead. The sign might be something useful to help. And talk about it. And I've put a positive little statement on that poster too. Thank you, because some people might see it. If I'd actually put up on that poster that hands up, that might offend some people. So think about your sign and the style of it too. So talking and telling your partner or your kids or whoever's around what you're doing and why and for how long, that really helps out. Yeah. Yeah, okay, and Pauline suggested the same thing too. So partners, you can share. Can be, if you've got a cat, you might close the door. Great. Pauline's warned Kim. Excellent. So, there's some tips, and we might come up with some more. Feel free if you think of them too. Oh, big one. Phone. Turn that off, or turn it to silent so you don't getting that, because that, that flash can get you looking at other things. If you're only here for half an hour, why not focus in on it and get the most out of it? Particularly if it's a training that you really want to get the most from. Okay, another handy tool to have is pen and paper. We're all about technology in this sort of environment, but in fact, it's really useful to have I'm getting distracted by the text chat. That's funny, isn't it? Having pen and paper ready, because the old-fashioned stuff actually helps you remember better. And so if you're wanting to take notes, that can be a really useful, handy thing. You can type it up later. Another way you can take notes in this sort of environment that I really love is doing screenshots. And so on my Mac, I have Shift, Command, and 4. And I'll just type that in here. So these are the buttons, Shift, Command, and the number 4. And you need them all together. And that will come up with a little thing that'll allow me to take a screenshot, say, of this, a particular screen that you want to have to remember. Another thing is to do the snipping tool if you're on another. I just love the snipping tool. It's not on a Mac. It's on your normal PC. And the snipping tool is a great way to take notes. But a pen and paper is really handy. It'll just jog you for coming back to something or reminding you, and it'll help it sink in too. So, of course, it depends on how much content. I'm studying a course, and in that course they actually allow you to see the whole PowerPoint, and I print it similar to this, where I have 3 screens to a page, and then I can write the notes next to it. And I've got all the image that they've got. That's if you're lucky enough to have someone share it in that way. So that's another handy tool for you. So listen out for the instructions by the presenter. So every presenter is really different. So listen out. So they might ask you to type in the text. put your hand up, take the microphone. There's all sorts of ways, and I'm going to show you. So far I've asked you to type in the text chat. That's been great. You've been doing that. So everyone has a different way. Some others, they're just talking at you and they don't really engage, but they might have questions at the end that you might participate in. Now, I support lots of different presenters coming online, and they're all at a different level. If you're partnering with someone when you're presenting, well, then there's a great opportunity for someone to follow and assist by following the text chat while the other person's presenting. So listen out for that, because however they want you to communicate will help them in presenting a much more effective webinar and have you knowing what you're doing. So I just found this cute little image of an impala this morning, and I thought that's a great, I changed my screenshot for that. Okay. P is patience. And again, this is about supporting the presenter. So a bit like of etiquette. If the presenter is on their own and you're typing in the text chat, they're trying to present. If I've actually got two computers on today, and I'm trying this, and this is working really well for me because I'm using the other screen to show my PowerPoint so I can see the text chat. So if I share the full screen on my computer, I don't see the chat. So if the presenter's only got one screen, they may not see the questions straight away. The other thing is, if they're so focused on what they're presenting, it can be tricky to be following the text chat. If you've got a big group of participants, it can be a real challenge to do both. So be patient. If you've got a really relevant question, then hopefully you might even ask that to come up. You might ask it again. You can copy and paste what you've done if the presenter's missed it. So just be aware that everyone's at different levels of presenting and have different focus, and it's always awesome if there's that potential to partner with a presentation. Right. Join in activities and prepare to be called on. So you've already done that. What do you think are the benefits of doing this? I might get you to type in the text chat. What would be the benefit in you joining in an activity? I'm just going to take a quick sip of water because I'm getting a bit parched while you type that. And if you're watching the recording, you might think of something too. What would be the benefit of joining in the activities to the whole session, to everyone? What would be the benefit? And to you? Not sure what you mean by that, Pauline. Shows your person. That might be a typo. I'm not sure. So it's an important part of communication. Yeah. I think shows your interest. Yes. So for me, by you joining in now, it shows that you're participating and that you're interested in what's going on. It's also joining in just makes it so much more engaging. So if I end up, just presenting and not asking you to participate, you're not as engaged as much. Personal development, Jess. Yeah. And, it's really interesting. I think, I've been a teacher for about 30 years. I always learn, whether I'm a student or a teacher, I learn by what the other participants in the classroom, wherever it be virtually or in person, is that the questions that you ask or the comments you make it so much more valuable to me. So I think if you can join in, you add value to yourself, you're getting to reflect. Yeah, Jess, it is nice to see your face on the screen, isn't it? And you feel less isolated. Yes, a lot of my work's been online, and definitely this virtual environment's great for that. Getting the courage to overcome possible new skills. Yeah, joining in with the text. Yeah, joining in and participating. Well, it's up to you. Yeah, you can turn on your videos if you like. That's all fun and gets that communication. So by joining in, you have so much, you get a lot more out of it. Your learning experience is so much more. Hello and welcome to you all. Great. Nice to see you. Okay, so ask questions. And again, this really comes to what I've just mentioned. If you ask questions, you're learning more. You're learning from each other. And to be honest, I have a personal dislike for webinars where you can ask and you can type text, but you can't see what anyone else is asking, and it's only if the presenter verbalises what they're asking. And I find that a real frustration for learning, because I always believe I learn from everyone else who participates. So really good to ask questions. Okay. And I've just had a sip of water. This is a tip for you. Get some water, a cup of tea, or whatever it is that you're going. Now, we have live at lunch so you can eat. Now, being really engaged is a challenge, but drinking water is really good for your brain and your body. So keep that happening so that you are hydrated. If you're a presenter, and like me, I'm talking quite a bit, you actually get dehydrated from doing so. So excuse me, I'm going to have another sip. To wet my whistle, really handy. Okay, so time to relax. Now, I've actually, in the information I've sent you, I've actually sent you a package which has got a lot of this information. And I mentioned at the start, we can often spend too much time in front of our screens and our desks. So breaking up our day with short, simple exercise is a great way to help our body and our mind. If you can start in the morning, I love to do meditation and a run. I missed my run this morning. I got on Facebook too early. It's a real no-no for me. I should have done my run before I checked those out. So we've got a really good idea if you're doing a live webinar, if you're thinking about hosting them, is to think about when you can do it. So you might do it at the start when you're welcoming, and sometime in the middle of your session you can break it up. Now, I've put one at the start, and today I'm going to put one at the end. And I'm just going to have a look. Pauline's written different topical. Where do I find the gallery view? I can't see it where I usually can. Cool, Pauline. Okay, so what you do is up the top of your screen, you should be able to see a button. Now, I'm actually looking in full. I've exited. Oh, what now? Let me have a look at the view options. I've got exit full screen for a start, which is the arrows that are either for or in. It's in the top right-hand corner. And if I open up the chat, I can see that on the right. Should have spoken about this right at the start. So I'm really pleased that you've asked that question. Adds value. You're on iPad. Pauline, I went to turn my iPad on, but it was really low, so I haven't got my iPad with me. Down the bottom, if you can see one little box, I'm going from memory. If you're looking on an iPad, down the bottom you'll see one little picture. There's a plus, and you should be able to see it open up across the bottom of your screen. Got it? I can see from your face you got it. Cool. Fantastic. Now you can see Jess as well. Yay. And Jess is in Queensland, you're in Young, and I'm in Coonabarabran. So just love this stuff. And people who are watching the recordings could be from anywhere. Okay, let's get on to our next screen. When you're doing exercises, really know your personal limits. So don't do any exercise that hurts. Instead, adapt it to something. So I'm going to share an exercise. We're talking about water. We've mentioned that. And relax and have some fun. So don't do things that don't sweat it, like those little finger cute little photos that are there. People are clever. All right, now it's time to vote. We're going to do one exercise because we've got 4 minutes before Live at Lunch finishes. And so it's going to be majority rules. We might have to come to some agreement. So we can do eyes, a wrist exercise, a hand exercise, or a body one. Now, the hand one we've actually done. Okay, so maybe if we do between A, B, or D, what I would like you to do is to just put the letter A, B, or D as to which one. So A for eyes, B for a wrist exercise, or D for a body one? Okay, we've got one vote in. Oh, we've gone for two. All right, well, let's just see. We'll try. Let's see if we can squeeze in both. Let's do it. We'll because majority rules is pretty hard when you've got two people voting. So we've got eyes and the body one. So let's do the eyes one first. I think that comes up on my screen next. Okay. So this one you're going to need to blink your eyes, and it's really good for relief from glare. So I want you to shut your eyes and hold them closed for 3 seconds. So I'm going to do 1 elephant, 2 elephant, 3 elephant. Open them up for that same amount of time, and then close again. 1 elephant, 2 elephant, 3 elephant. So you can keep doing that. And we're just going to do it 5 times. Another really good eye exercise is to actually look out at something further afield. So you can look through a window if you've got one. You might look behind you and refocus on something behind you so that you get a different focus point. That's a really good one to do at any time, so that you're stretching your eyes and doing that mix. It's not normal for us as humans to be staring at one thing, one distance all the time. All right, we're going to skip past the backward wrist stretch. You've got those that you can access. I've got them all so you can print them off. They were my little e-gifts in the email I've sent you. All right, this is the whole body one. Okay, we've got to stand up if you're up for standing up. And we're going to be doing an imaginary hula hoop. So we're going to stand with our feet hips width apart and put your hands on your hips, and you're going to go around one way. This is really good for the webcams. And go 10 times one way, don't mind which way you go, and then go around the other way. So a really, really good stretch. Now remember, if this is hurting your back, don't do it. You need to do something that's a bit simpler. And so just do something. If you feel like that's too much, you might just do a stretch. Just do something that's for you. Okay, there we go. So there's a really good stretch. So why it matters is that, well, we don't really do so much. It's a good about flexibility, get your body pumping. If you did this at the start, I don't know about you, but I feel energized, a little bit puffed too. So that's good. So cardio, does anyone have a favourite way of doing the hula hoop? I cannot, one that I love really doing, I've only done it recently too, and it could be a way you can nearly break your neck, I reckon, is to actually put your foot through in one of them and then spin and jump. So you actually spin with one leg, the circle, and then step it over, and so you run with that. I don't know if you've had any, there's the arm one, there's the hip one, all sorts. Really good fun. Okay, there's an imaginary one there, and you've got those. So I hope you enjoyed today's session. Upcoming, I'm actually having 2 weeks break. Well, I'm working in another job, and just because the hours may not allow me to host the Live at Lunch, I've decided to have 2 weeks break, so I'm not, disappointing anyone with being late. Yes, it's a bit when we aren't necessarily as flexible as we were. Take some practice, hula hoops. But on the 26th, I'm doing another similar thing, but stepping up. So talking about webinar rooms and virtual ones, but how to actually engage people more effectively in your audience. So we've done some examples today of being engaged in different ways. So there's lots of different tips. So that's there for you. If anyone's watching the recording of this, you need to register to get the updates. Anyone who comes in gets a live link and I try to keep it to really a minimum 1 email with what's coming up, and usually a 1 hour reminder. If I'm organised, you get that 1 hour reminder so that you get the link. And so, yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for engaging today, Jess and Pauline. It's been delightful to have you here. And so that's it. Live at Lunch. We're going to have a 2-week break, and we'll be back on the 26th. Have a wonderful week, and a wonderful day for the rest of today. Thanks for joining me.